You're listening to Dark City Radio Live, and this is your host Dawn from the Dark City crew. Tune in at www.darkcityradio.com. You can find us by searching Dark City Radio on Facebook or Twitter.
I have to channel the spirit. All right, let's see here.
This is not our radio. This is your radio. Dark City Radio.
Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So if you want the truth, go to
Dark City Radio.
It's simple like bar when the sheep. It's simple, might pour obsolete and deplete the elite. Delete the police. We need peace in the streets, not corporate policy enforcement peeps. Known as the popes, like both of those blokes in robes, thrones, clones and loans.
That was a tune from S-Man. I'd like to say thank you very much. And tonight's show's going to be promised to be an absolute cracker. We've got Charlie Veitch on. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
Thank you very much, Dom. Good to speak to you again, and good to be on Dark City Radio.
Yep, good. Well, I've got to thank you again for coming on tonight to air your views with us, because this actually means a lot to me personally. Because when I used to look at all your stuff back in the day,
yeah,
all on the alternative media, and there's many other people I've looked at, but you was one of them that actually made me get up to do a little bit more and push myself to make some positive change.
Yeah.
But since then, so much has happened. I've met you since then. I used to watch you on YouTube and all sorts, but I've talked to you, but I've not got to know you.
Yeah, we've always met in like big areas where it's always really busy. So anyway, good to get chatting now.
Yeah. So, well, I guess this is my chance to find out what's going on surrounding the conspiracy theory that is called Charlie Veitch.
Am I a conspiracy theory?
Yeah, of course you are, and you know it, because like there's so much said about you, like everything from 9/11 activist who's had the 180 turnaround, the Love Police, which you were involved with Danny Shine, and I in fact, I YouTubed BBC Veitch earlier on, and one of the best titles I saw was Charlie Veitch is a MI6, CIA, Mossad, Silverstein, zombie, New World Order, BBC, Operative Shield, sellout.
Man, right? That is like the best name ever.
So, like, I've seen like many attacks on your own self, and I get that myself, but through what I do, and I can see where your anger comes from when you attack back, maybe because if you're getting that energy thrown at you all day long, maybe it's coming at you like that, so you're resonating that back. Yeah. Well, the thing is, many people want to know what's gone on, and a couple of the main things are 9/11's one of them, and what happened with the BBC, and then Ian Tomlinson was another one. Yeah. So, which one do you want to pick first?
Well, I've spoken so much and done quite a few radio shows, and also probably a good 50 videos on the first two subjects. So happy to talk about Ian Tomlinson, seeing as it's like my latest video. And it's been one of the main ways the bullies have been trying to hurt me and discredit me and say really nasty things. So that's why I did the video the other day that you reposted, Dom, the sad truth about the death of Ian Tomlinson, because I just wanted to set the record straight, because I know I'm telling the truth. I don't need people to believe me. I just don't need that. I don't need people to like me. But what I find very interesting from a psychology point of view is how people have to, we're all guilty of this. We're all fucking imperfect, angry apes on this stupid cosmic journey. But people seem to be really angry that there are still a few people that do like my videos. And, you know, when I don't like someone, like, let me think of an example. Justin Bieber, Rihanna, Chris Brown, whatever. I don't watch their videos on YouTube, and I certainly don't take the time out to comment, because I don't like those things. So the very interesting psychological thing is how people within the truth movement or the alternative research world or as people find it derogatory, but the conspiracy theory world, like, they seem to be wanting to bully me, and I find that really sad because nobody likes a bully, and I'm just an imperfect human being that suffers just like everyone else. And everywhere I go online, whether it's on a conspiracy video or on even a mainstream video, I get people just finding great pleasure in just throwing nasty personal abuse at me. And it's really, I've had to develop a rhino skin to deal with it. So, in the ultimate, we're all God, we're all going to go back to the source kind of way of thinking. It's a good thing ultimately. They say everything is okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. So, it's a big valuable lesson, but bullying is not nice.
One thing that I want to get clear is, like, tonight there'll be like no, hopefully, arguments anyway, but there's many questions that I'll personally want to get to the bottom of, and many other people keep asking, and I see it flying around online as you do yourself, but don't really seem to get any answers for the questions. Like, you say you were speaking the truth, but you're saying that he was a protester when there's reports saying that he wasn't a protester. So what do you say about that one?
Well, everything I said in my videos were true. And let me just get the record straight. Like, okay, we'll come on to the BBC interview I did, when I was the chubby banker dressed in, my suit. We can come on to that soon. But I met Ian Tomlinson before he died. He was there protesting. I saw him go and confront the police. I saw him run with other groups of protesters. And when he came to speak to me, because I had the megaphone and the bicycle, I was saying, oh, what are you going to do with the megaphone? He was protesting. He told me he'd been there protesting all day. Those were his words. I've been here fighting the police all day. So why would I have thought he was lying? So Dom, like, as far as I know, with empirical knowledge of actually being there, as far as I know, he was protesting because that's what I saw, that's what I heard, that's what he told me.
Because, well, I'm only going by like a few things that I've read online, and one of them is a Wikipedia link where it says that Tomlinson was on his way home from work. Then it goes on to say that the inquest jury found it to be an unlawful killing, and they said that in the inquest he was on his way home from work, and it looks like the police tried to cover up Ian Tomlinson's death, because the first post-mortem, when you didn't see it on TV, all you saw was yourself on TV, but the first thing post-mortem said he died of natural causes. But after it came out through, I think it was The Guardian that leaked it, that he got pushed over and bashed and all the rest of it by the police, that he did die of internal bleeding, and this was confirmed by 3 other pathologists.
Yeah, don't dispute that. There's no dispute there, Dom.
So, like, it does look like the police were covering it up. And the thing is, the only one...
They hired that pathologist that was it. I think it was even an Asian guy, if I remember back, that had been discredited many times before, and they tried to sneak him in to do the post-mortem, and then it all got exposed. So yeah, and like I support the truth as much as anyone that does things. And I think a lot of my viewers that watch my videos know that, like, I'm an imperfect guy like everyone else, but I'm going for the truth. But Dom, let me ask you a question, because like I've just told you now that, I spoke to Ian Tomlinson. I don't think anyone that criticizes me has ever even met the guy or spoken to him. So I'm telling you, I spoke to him. These were his words. That's what he was doing. Maybe he was on his way home and joined the protest, but when I saw him, he was protesting, Dom. So either you're calling me a liar direct now, or you're saying that other people's like third-rate evidence from reading about it somewhere or something is better than first-hand knowledge of actually having spoken to the guy.
No, I'm going by the High Court's inquest reports, basically. I'm not
Dom,
disputing
let me ask you a
what you've
question,
said.
because they're not mutually exclusive, me and the High Court's report. Is it possible that he was going home and then joined the protest?
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I
so
do
that's
think
a
along them lines too.
So there is no conspiracy here around that. I'm not inventing a lie. I'm not trying to say he was there protesting. There's no path from this one, Dom. Like, maybe he was going home and then decided to join the protest, and when I met him and spoke to him, he was protesting.
Okay. But the thing is, you were, at the time, you was on the BBC, but earlier on you was at the protest yourself, wasn't you?
I was.
And with a megaphone?
Mm-hmm.
And you said on the BBC that there was a guy there in the audience with a megaphone. Was that you that you was talking about?
Well, I said that there's a third-party person that So, what are you asking me? Was I referring to myself in the third person?
Yeah, as such.
No.
Because you couldn't really say while you're standing there in a suit, I was there with a megaphone. Because he said to you, was you there protesting? And you said, no, I'm a city worker.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing with them, I was still in gainful employment back then. So obviously I didn't want to say I was there fucking anarchically fucking throwing pot plants at the police and shit like that. So yeah, I gave them the diluted version.
But the thing is, why would you go on the BBC and say that, though? All them things.
It's a very good question, and I've answered it in my latest video, which I hope you did watch all the way through. Is that I saw so many news reports talking about Ian Tomlinson as as this like super like not meant to be their guy, that he was just like whistling along with his hands in his pockets trying to walk home, and then he got smashed down by the police. I'm not disputing he got smashed down by the police, but in the kind of fog of war, as so often happens in warfare and in protests, and especially when someone gets killed, I saw this kind of mythology build up that we see in the mainstream media a lot, that he wasn't there to confront police. The way he was walking with his hands in his pockets, he was mocking them.
Yeah, but it's proof there, though, that it's an unlawful killing. And you've said yourself that they did use overwhelming force. So, but then again, on the BBC, you said you didn't see any of that. You said that Ian Tomlinson was running away and fell over.
Did I say that?
Yeah, on the BBC report. There's a video up on YouTube of you on the BBC outside the Bank of England giving a couple of minute report.
I know the video. I've done statements about this video. I'm not disputing the video, but what were my exact words?
The police were pushing forward at 20 meters at a time, and Ian Tomlinson ran away and fell over. That's how he died. Well, you didn't say that's how he died, but everything else was word for word.
Yes. Dom, are you aware, sir, that Ian Tomlinson got up after he was pushed over and did walk away and did further fall over a bit further down the line and then die? Are you aware of that?
Oh, so he didn't run away and fall over, and that was the reason, though? Because that's what you say on the BBC, and you say that everything you said on there was the truth.
Yes. Dom, I'm asking you a question. Are you aware that Ian Tomlinson, or were you aware before I just told you, that he did get up and did walk away or run away and then die about 20, 30 meters further down the road? Were you aware of that?
Well, yeah, but you didn't state that on the BBC. So
your question is a bit like, what were you trying to ask me then? Like I did say in the interview, he walked away or ran away and fell over and died, which is exactly what happened. It's what I saw.
Well, you know my own personal opinions and views. Like I said to you in a private message when we was talking about Occupy, that to me, and there are websites out there like crisisactors.org where they hire actors for emergency situations. Like in Sandy Hook, apparently there was a load of actors there. Now, there's people out there that I'm not too sure what to make of, really, like Dallas Goldbug.
Can I interrupt you quickly? So, crisis actors, do they go in after the tragedy or before the tragedy, or what point?
That's a very good point. Some of them's probably pre-recorded, and some of them's probably done on a set, and some of them's probably done round the corner from where it happens, and maybe some of it doesn't even happen. Who knows?
Okay.
So, like, there are these websites where they do hire actors and put them in these positions, right? And somebody's just said in the room, as I mentioned, Dallas Goldbug, he's even said that you're Spock from Star Trek. So that's how far the conspiracy theory known as Charlie Veitch goes, you know what I mean?
You'll agree with me that I'm not Spock from the new Star Trek. Will you agree?
No. Yeah, I actually don't think you're Spock. I really don't.
Come on, Dom. Say that you know I'm not Spock. Don't just say you don't think I'm Spock. Say you know I'm not Spock. Say it.
The thing is, I've not looked into any evidence because I won't waste my time on it.
Wait, Dom, please, come on, just to show like a lot of the listeners that you're not potentially saying that
I believe
a
you're not
multi-million-dollar, highly paid Hollywood actor, that I'm living with Stacey here in Manchester as some sort of cover.
Yeah. I'm totally with you on that.
Right,
but like, I can't say no because like that is a knowing. And to be honest with you, this is the most we've ever talked, Charlie.
Dom, you've met me. You've met my girlfriend. You've like, you know, I'm not Spock from Star Trek, dude.
Yeah, I know. Right, yeah. All right, yeah, but to know something would be to be 100%. And the thing is, I think Dallas Goldbug is out there. Don't get me wrong.
All right, well, I'll give you 100%. I know you're not Paul Hayden. That's 100%. I know that Paul is Paul Hayden and that you're Dom.
I thought we were all one, but then again, that's another story.
Oh, you got me there, dude.
But okay, then also the video you mentioned earlier, the sad truth of Ian Tomlinson, and this is something I am actually quite fascinated in because you say that you have thousands of viewers, and you truly do, and you thank them for donating, and you couldn't do it without them.
Yeah.
Now I can see where you're coming from because you're in the world of fiat, and that's how it is. And it is that's how they do enslave people. It's mental, in my opinion. And you get a massive amount of support for what you do. You said. Now, when you say that, how much, like at the prime, when you was like really getting a lot of support rather than the haters, was you getting a fair amount of donations?
Well, yeah, man. The first donation appeal video I did towards the end of 2009, we got $3,000 in like just a few weeks. And sorry, Karen.
No, I was just going to say, because what I noticed, I did see one of your donation videos. I don't know what time it was, and I did notice that there was like clicks of like quite a number of likes. So I thought a ratio of that of people donating. It's not too bad, really.
Yeah, I wish all the likes donated, but
Oh no, I'm not saying all the likes. You've got to work out on a ratio sort of card as such.
But one thing I'll say, like most days I don't get a donation. Today I did. I'm very, very grateful, but most days I don't.
Did that sort of like stem down from like after the BBC 9/11?
Oh God, yeah, completely, dude, completely.
What made you go on the BBC documentary?
Well, good question. Hold on a sec. It was like an offer I couldn't refuse. To meet the FBI, to meet the CIA, to grill them, to grill the people that built the towers, the engineering firm, the architecture firm, to grill a controlled demolition guy, to actually go up the new World Trade Center 7 before anyone was allowed to. It was still being built. We went to the top floor that they'd built in this big empty thing. Like, you see, I think I run at the window in the show, and they fucking edited it to make me look like an idiot, which is great because I was. But it was basically a 9-day trip in America to answer big questions that I really, really cared about and do care about, which is why I went on the show and why I'm still, happy to talk about it now. And I hope that answers your question. That's, it's like an opportunity to, with other people paying, for me to, do something which if I had the money, I'd probably do myself and shoot a documentary.
So like you say you don't get donations anymore, but you say you get a huge amount of support, and that's why you carry on doing what you do.
Yeah.
Well, is it because of the support, or is it because of the, like, you want to make positive changes, like what I thought originally what you wanted?
Well, I don't think they're mutually exclusive, Dom. I think making positive change brings support. And, you made a good comment, as a joke earlier that, I thought we were all one, and I was saying Paul is Paul, you're Dom and stuff. So, but on the kind of, we are all one thing, like, like my really imperfect, like, pain, suffering, desperate for, recognition, or like, for, I think it all comes from our parents. We want to please our parents. So there is, I guess, a part where you are, humbly wanting people to, tell you that you're doing the right thing. But the intent is there to do the right thing, Dom. Of course.
Okay, and also you said, which you said it would get a lot of people's backs up as well, that everything you said on that BBC interview was true. Not the conspiracy road trip, the Ian Tomlinson one.
Yeah, I had sorry, carry on.
And you've explained that, like, you smelt drink on him, and you said he was part of the protest. This is one thing I can't get. If he was well, you called him a protester.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing going on at home on the way home from work and then getting rolled into it, like you saw many times down at Occupy, people be on their way home from work. Even a copper stayed behind and got drunk and stayed at Occupy for the night.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like anybody could roll past and the rest of it. But he's not a protester, is he? He's just rolled past into it. Maybe it's a bad choice of words on your behalf.
Dom, I didn't know any of this backstory then, because this, like the interview, the one where it's me wearing the suit, the BBC interview, was literally a day or two after the protest. So I didn't know the backstory that he was a newspaper vendor. He was dressed normally. He was there. There were people of all ages. From what I saw, Dom, like he was there protesting. He was running with groups of protesters. He was hollering. He was like chasing the police. He was coming back. He came to speak to me and told me these things. So, you know, there's no conspiracy here, man. I'm not covering for something. Like, he was a protester to me. And like, yeah, if he was on his way home and got roped into it and got really drunk and didn't understand the geopolitical nature of the protest, if he didn't have anarchist ideals in his heart because he was just a normal guy coming back from the pub, then that's obviously a possibility. But like, he told me he was protesting. He told me he was fighting the police. So what was I going to say? I mean, protester is a common label for that.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the start of that interview, you said that the truth is the first casualty.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I can't remember where the quote comes from. It might be Churchill or someone, but I didn't come up with that. But truth is the first casualty of war. Is how history is written by the winners, and in any conflict, if you win, you're not gonna say the other guy was all right and you were a bit of a cunt, are you? You're gonna distort it. So, and also, like, the reason I use these words in the Tomlinson case is that the media's job, the kind of sensationalist media, is to create division and conflict, divide and conquer and say, oh, different teams, oh, look at this. So the more they could paint Ian Tomlinson as, because the footage they showed, as they were saying he was just on his way home, was him mocking the police with his hands in his pockets, just like, the footage we all saw when he got knocked over. And that is a distortion, because that's presenting the story, Dom. And I know you dislike media distortion as anyone else. That street he was on, he did not notice 10,000 massive line of riot cops, and he just happened to be walking down the street with his hands in his pockets, and then smash. It wasn't that energy, Dom, but that's how the media presented it, because it wanted to incite the public, and quite correctly so. He was unlawfully killed. But
yeah, I can agree with you on that. And the thing is, he could have got stuck in there anyway on the way home, like it does say in the inquiry.
Yeah.
But like not today's video, the sad truth video that you put up, I only saw it today actually.
Yeah.
You say that the police were overly aggressive, but on the BBC one, you say that there was no overkill or violence from the police. So can you see why people are getting confused and angry and want to ask you questions on this?
No, of course. Like, the reference I was making to the police, I think my words were the police acted professionally, was after Tom. Can you guys still hear me? It went quiet. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm putting my mute on mic.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's a nice silence. Well, the reason why I said the police were professional is because when Ian Tomlinson collapsed and it became very apparent that he was very unwell, as in not getting up again, I used the megaphone to shout for a medic. And what was very funny was how all of a sudden all the protesters and anarchists just kind of stood there, and the police and the medics and the kind of ambulance crew came running in, like literally within like 30 seconds they were there on him, trying to resuscitate him and help him. And it was a very bizarre and abstract and absurd, almost like an absurdist situation where, like, it's all great fun until someone gets hurt. And it showed the humanity behind both sides of the police and the protesters, that, there was no, I mean, obviously the guy who hit him was, an asshole. And he will, everyone will know his face, because he can't walk down the street without getting abused, because people know he murdered that poor old guy. But the rest of the police, and Dom, you've met lots of police that are nice people. It's just it's hard to explain the kind of absurdity of the situation there.
You do realise you just said that it was you that called for the medic.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then on the BBC, you said somebody in the audience called for a medic.
Yeah.
But you've just said here on air that you called for a medic on a megaphone.
Yeah, there could have been other people there with megaphones, Dom. Like, this is a few years ago. Whether I was referring to myself in the third person, I very much doubt it. I don't think I did, Dom. There could have been another guy or another girl calling out for a medic with a megaphone. I wasn't the only person there with a megaphone.
But you did call out medic.
Yes, I did.
But I asked you earlier, and you didn't answer me.
Well,
so it was you that called medic, and then said on the BBC that somebody in the audience would called medic on a megaphone. Yeah. Why did you say it was an audience?
Would you be happy if I say I honestly can't remember whether it was referring to myself in the third person or covering my ass because I was on the BBC and still wearing a suit and because I didn't want to say it was me? Would you be happy with that, or would you think there was like a deeper conspiracy?
I don't know. If the conspiracy is anything, I would personally think it was a paid actor is the way I see it. But that's what I said to you on a private message on Facebook ages ago when we was talking about Occupy, and I just recently saw that BBC video.
Okay, well, I find this fascinating. What do you mean by... Okay, I understand obviously what you mean by paid actor, but let's go through the processes. Like, what would lead up and how would it be organized that I would be a paid actor to be in the right place at the right time, just happen to be on my lunch break having to go back from work to do that interview? Like, how would that be organized?
Well, I don't know how acting jobs go as far as I do know people that have had bit parts and they go and audition and the rest of it. So you're not a paid actor then? No. Have you heard of a website called starnow.co.uk?
Dom, I know that website. I'm on that website.
And it says on there that you're an actor and you've had acting experience, previous paid speaking roles.
Is that what the drop-down box says? Previous paid speaking roles.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably referring to my presences on RT and Press TV, which pay 25 quid for a Skype one, or 75 quid to go on to their studio and rant about issues of the day. But I can honestly say, hand on heart, and in the last 10 years of my life, I've never had a paid acting fiction role. So I think because I am looking for any kind of work, in terms of filming or cameraman or editing or acting or presenting. That's probably what I did the drop down box for, but I'm not a paid crisis actor, Dom.
Well, I don't know. I find it very, very, very interesting indeed, because we do live in circles of friends that are questioning everybody about everything, and I've been questioned on many levels about these sort of things. You know what I mean? People have called me everything from COINTEL to a government agent and shield this and shield that, and so I've had it. And I even defended you the other day. Max Radico come on air and he called you out as intelligence, so I defended you and said you wasn't intelligence.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I heard you and Paul say afterwards that you think I'm a nice guy and stuff, and I appreciate it. I'm poor Max, man. I had to listen to the interview because a friend of mine sent me the link, and I was like, whoa, that's some. But this is the thing, Don. I hand on heart, I'm here as a human being. I'm not one of the bad guys. I'm not a paid actor. I'm not a government agent. I'm not a normal straight actor that's fucking around with people. My heart is in it, and I have demons just like everyone else, and days of crisis where I fucking question why I bother with all the fucking hatred. Fucking, as Bill Hicks would say, fucking wipe them all out, to make sure you get the assholes, So, we all have a dark side, and in terms of acting, I'll tell you acting. Damien Rockefeller is my kind of tribute to, the kind of what I would consider one of the bad guys to be, if that is. So it's kind of the kind of alter ego of fucking letting your fucking demons out. So Yeah, there's acting.
But wouldn't the BBC use stooge actors at these points at protests like that, especially if the police have done some action like that and they do want to cover stuff up and they would get someone in?
I don't know, Dom. You'll have to send me some links to have a look because I don't know. I don't think the BBC are using paid actors, but I don't have any connection with the BBC, so I don't know. But if you send me some links, I'll look into it.
Yeah, no problems. I do actually know somebody that's worked for the BBC, and he has sent me a lot of information about actors and how it does work. So I'll send that on to you, Charlie.
Cool.
Right, I'm going to look for some questions in the chat room. If people are listening and they want to throw a question across, we'll do a first come, first served. Are you looking at the chat room yourself, Charlie?
I'm not, no.
Okay, well, there's quite a few people in there tonight. And, right, the first one is I was going to bring this up if you wanted to talk about, but there has been allegations of you having a mother and a daughter of 15 years old. Would you, and you know what the claims are, that you slept with a 15-year-old girl after sleeping with the mother or something. Now, that was the first question. I did randomly say I would put all questions up there. So would you like to answer that one, Charlie?
Well, I'll just remain completely neutral and say I don't answer questions about my personal life, especially not in an ambush attempt to, discredit or hurt. So, no, I'll talk about, the issues which I came on to talk about.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you one thing. Another one that's come up in the past is Ian Moore.
Yeah.
Now, you was hanging about with Ian Moore before your BBC road trip.
Mm-hmm.
And have you heard the conspiracy theories around it where he's used some kind of NLP on you?
Yeah, they're as laughable as the other ones, Dom. Like, he didn't use any NLP. There was no trickery. He was desperate for me to go down to visit him and do his fucking Scientology stress meters and go through it all. And when we met at festivals and hang out and we're in fields, smoking joints, relaxing, listening to music, he did say that even though he's not a part of Scientology anymore, he still believes in a lot of the kind of ways of it, and he wanted to get me to do this was it e-meter, where you hold on to these metal things and it measures changes in electricity when they ask you questions. And I never did it, and I was like everyone else, you kind of like him because he's a nice, fun, wizardy kind of guy, but it's I treated his Scientology kind of beliefs the same way I would treat someone's Catholic beliefs, is respectfully, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of wild things about Ian Moore, but the people that are making these wild claims have come up with absolutely no proof or any reasonable way of questioning. So I just move on. And
it's just one of these conspiracy, let's create Dungeons and Dragons, and anything could possibly be true. Everything, there's connections everywhere.
Well, you got to have a look at the position that we're in. We're looking at how the powers that be, the elites, or whatever you want to label them as, that have been controlling humanity for thousands of years. But there's certain people that are rebellious, and within their heart they know why, because there's problems on this planet, and some of us get up and do something about it. And that's why I thought initially why you done what you done.
Dom, that is why I do what I do, dude.
But you said on your video that you do it for support. If you didn't do it, you didn't get the support, you wouldn't do it.
I didn't say that.
On the sad truth about Ian Tomlinson's death, you said something about, hang on, where is it? I've got so much written down here. It's
I say I wouldn't do it or couldn't do it.
Well, you said you couldn't do it without them, and
all right.
If they didn't
support you, the common expression, "Oh, I couldn't have done it without you guys." Dom, I'm not hiding anything, man. You talk about activists. I'm one of the activists that's out there doing this. I get arrested. I suffer like everyone else. I get the same kind of problems as everyone else. It's just, it's a shame that it's built up to this, me being swallowed by even greater and more fantastical conspiracies.
Okay, and somebody's moved on to Danny Shine. You and Danny you've done a couple of videos, had a fallout with Danny, bit publicly online. What happened there? Because you were really good mates.
Yeah, no, I still have a lot of respect for Danny and realize he's just as troubled as me or troubled as anyone else. But he started riding with this kind of crazed Irishman who down in London, who they'd like do videos, and they started saying some pretty crazy things about me, that I'm an unwitting agent of the dark side. And so I kind of said, Danny, what the hell's going on? And he didn't really give me a straight answer. And then a few weeks later, after I saw this video, this Irishman at the occupied UBS building, you know that one down, you know which one I mean.
I know what night it was as well. Carry on.
Yeah. He kicked me really hard, like really fucking assaulted me, like in front of a big fucking room of people. And like, I really had to hold back to not hit him back, but luckily I didn't, retaliate, but I was limping for days. And then Danny started just being, anyway, I've said all this so many times before, anyway.
All right, we'll probably come back to Danny then, but let's stick on the subject of Occupy, because this is something close to my heart, as you well know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the footage, because you turned up that night at the USB building where Kelvin come out and he kicked you in the shin. This was after the whole meeting. What was the meeting about?
Dude, it wasn't my shin. He got me just on my thigh next to my ass. It was like, like dead leg, but 10 times worse.
Okay, sorry, my mistake. But the meeting you turned up for that night, what was it about?
I can't remember. What was it about?
Them trying to evict me.
Oh, the kangaroo court against Dom. Yeah. Was I filming? I can't remember.
Yeah, well, you had a camera the size of a little man. So, yeah, and the thing is, you turned up at the same time as the guy that strangled me and Andy Baker, and coincidence or synchronicity, who knows, who cares, really. But, I asked you for the footage, I didn't get it off you, I don't really care about the footage, but...
I don't think I've ever seen the footage.
Well, we got most of it online anyway, from Inside Occupy, and The Bank of Ideas was the name of the film that Land of the Free Guys made. And, well, we were talking about Occupy, and you said you support Occupy.
Yeah, man.
So, what part of Occupy do you support? Is it Common Purpose, or Tavistock Institute, or the BBC, or what part?
Dom, loaded questions with 3 very defined answers there. You promised to ask me open questions.
This is very open, this is something that we're both...
The open question is, what part of Occupy do you support? Which I'll answer. I mean, the whole global, energy movement of it, the New York one, how that started, and all the ones around the world, man. It's people fed up with inequality. There's a bunch of fucking leftists and communists and confused fucking socialists and anarcho-capitalists, and, it's all a big fucking mishmash of people, but it's something.
Okay, so how did it start?
You know what? I did watch a documentary on it a few nights ago about the one starting in New York. And was it not just a group of guys that just fucking went and started set up some tents one day?
Really? I thought it was funded $6 million by George Soros in Adbusters and advertised a worldwide movement off the back of...
Oh, yeah, Adbusters. That's it. They're the ones that did the appeal. And they wanted 20,000 people, but only 2,000 turned up.
Well, even the London one was getting huge numbers at the start, and I don't know what your opinions are now of Occupy, but would you like to tell me?
Yeah, the authorities and the police in America really did not like Occupy and brutalized them and were really nasty to them. And you saw that big the military guy, that big black guy that said, there is no honor in this. These people are unarmed. There is no honor in this. So, Dom, I don't think Occupy is a conspiracy set up by the oligarchs and the powers that be to do anything, man. Otherwise it would have, I don't know, stayed. If there's big money and big power behind it, it would still be set up. They'd have occupied buildings and the whole kind of Che Guevara setup. It's faded away.
They done what they needed to do. The Bank of Ideas set precedent in the High Court. Now, thanks to Phoenix, squatting is no longer allowed in residential buildings. Even though that was a commercial building, they're using that as case law now to quote other cases through. And they're just pushing cases through and quoting that, the Bank of Ideas, in cases, which we see one recently, the Hobo Hilton, which was a very big court case in the High Court again, and they pushed it through because of previous precedent. So the Occupy movement is a false flag. False flag takes rights away from, or perceived rights away from citizens. And that is exactly what the Occupy movement done.
Well, I don't agree with you on that one. Like, I know you've got very strong feelings about it, and that's absolutely your right. And, you know, I don't have all the documents right here, but I can tell you my opinion is Occupy is pretty much what Occupy looks like.
Well, what, like Saskia Kent, who was running the General Assemblies at Occupy St Paul's, is a common purpose graduate. You've got the Tavistock Institute, who were doing workshops from week one. You've got a guy doing the security and the tech team who instructs High Court bailiffs.
Yeah.
It's like every stone you overturned there was like you had Max.
There you go. This is also where conspiracies about me come from, because I come from the finance world. Because like since I was a little boy, I wanted to be an actor. So now you got all the kind of he's a paid actor kind of conspiracies. And I was in the army. I was in the TA, you know, the weekend toy soldiers, fucking British Army for, you know, best part of the year. So like everything that people do, people change their minds. They move on. Like I might have been a common purpose graduate if I was a different person and still done the Love Police. It doesn't prove that it's a conspiracy.
But like these are like a leaderless movement, and all these people come into the perceived positions of leaderment and control it from their positions. You had Ronan McNern on the press team. He's got huge media background. You've got Saskia Kent, as I said, common purpose. Stephen R. Moore, who instructs High Court bailiffs. This is like naming names, facts and proofs of people in positions.
I'll agree with you 100%. Like I saw a lot of ego and a lot of leftists. I want to like lead a fucking group kind of people there. And I had issues with that as well. But isn't that the same in any social group or any sport or any group of people? Like there's people who want to throw their balls around, and, you know, it's just jousting and, you know, ball swinging amongst people, you know, it's what happens.
Well, yeah, but when you've got like people that do social engineering and social engineering en masse, i.e. Common Purpose and the Tavistock Institute, then like this is just one social engineering experiment, like a protesters' census, because people are filling in forms down there and they've never filled a census out, giving them all their details. It's crazy.
Well, you know, I don't have the as deep a level of concern about Occupy as you do. So, you know.
Oh, there's no concern. It's like, it gave me something to do for how many months, and I loved it. It's at the time, my fingerprints went missing off the database, so I thought, well, I might as well make myself a bit more public.
That's excellent. Did your fingerprints go? I think I remember you mentioned this about a year ago or something.
Yeah, it was just before the Occupy movement started as such.
Yeah.
And I did see Occupy starting up, and I didn't want to go anywhere near it. But the funny thing was, I was at Passing Clouds in Dalston. Do you know it?
Yeah. Run by what's her name? Yeah.
Eleanor Wilson.
That's the one.
Yeah, and that's another weird coincidence. There's an Eleanor Wilson that is a Common Purpose graduate. What do you reckon on that one?
Eleanor Wilson. There's maybe quite a few of them in Britain though with that name.
Yeah, there's 56 Eleanor Wilsons in Britain.
Okay, so.
Do you know what I mean? It's doing research and pointing out naming and facts. And when you have a look at that, Eleanor Wilson actually handed that building, the Bank of Ideas, to Phoenix, and then it became a registered limited company.
Okay, but Dom, 1 out of 56 is not good odds. So it's like 98% chance that it was one of the other Eleanor Wilsons that is the Common Purpose graduate, unless you're making a connection, you know, which you are. I can see that.
Oh, no, the thing is, it's like all these dots tied together when she's got fingers in pies of transition towns, Grow Heathrow, 9/11 Truth Rising, which was run by Dean Puckett and Gareth Newham.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you make of them guys now, but you used to be friends with them, didn't you?
Well, I used to bump into Gareth Newman. You know, he was the ginger guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're looking like more and more suspect as time goes on. They've just made a film called Crisis of Civilization, which won awards and all the rest of it. And the funny thing is, it's promoting the climate change scam, and on top of that, it's Rothschild funded. On top of that, it's also done work with Nafis Ahmed, who's part of Chatham House. So you see all these connections going on, and what my worry is that people are what the New World Order would love is for the people to actually rise up and protest themselves into the New World Order.
Well, no, one thing I love about these kind of conversations and love about the kind of research that you've done and that you've just explained to me is that it's what I think made me first believe in the conspiracies around 9/11 is because what the alternative research community does is builds a very neat and very appealing, because it is very well put together, forensic kind of dot connecting of how it would have been done if the bad guys did it, because as we know, it can't be proved either way. It cannot be proved either way, because who can say for certain? But what I think the conspiracy research world does is obviously appeal to that really kind of I guess intelligent side in people.
Wow! Guess who's trying to add me as a friend?
Who?
Holographic sentence.
Oh, there you go.
Right. I'll see if he's up for a chat. But would you like to explain to people who this dude is that we both had to and fro's
Holographic
with?
sentience. I think he. Well, I'll just keep it simple and true. He has an opinion about my films and about me, which he wants to share with me often on YouTube. And he's a critic. He does not like a lot of the things I do or say, and he seems very keen to let me know that he does not like what I do or say.
Right. Shall we bring him in the call then? See if it is him or.
You're the radio host, dude. I'm just.
Let's do it. All right. Hang on. He's made one of my favourite videos so far. An attempt at trolling me. Did he come in the call there, Paul?
No. He's just dropped from the call.
I think he dropped because maybe he realized that we could all see his name as Pete Johnston now.
That is a very good point you've just made, Charlie.
Yeah.
Well, let's stick on the point of Holo, right? Now, the thing is, he came onto my channel quite some time ago and just started hitting it with comments and comments and comments and comments and comments. Most of it was really intellectual and I liked, but it was just like a bit over the top of the amount of comments, busting everybody else out. So in the end, I blocked him, and he made a video stating his freedom of speech is less than mine or something, and I was commonly known as bullshit. And then he done another video, then he done another one, but he's got really good at it now, and he's done one, and he's done it in the style of Indiana Jones, and he said it's like meet a new kind of hero, and a man who has no name, and he's proper taking the rise out of me, but I love it because I couldn't do this without every single one of us that are out here, even the people that stay quiet. They're the ones that stay quiet.
He secretly loves your videos, which is why he had to put his name and comment all over them, and he couldn't stop watching. And you broke his heart, man, by blocking him. But the thing is, what he needs to realize is it's not his personal message board, you know. And just relax, dude. Maybe leave one comment per video.
So all right, let's move on to something else then, because I don't think he's going to come into the call there. Bless him. What do you see as the problems in the world, and what do you think the solutions are?
Well, I'll keep it very simple, because I think if a problem can't be explained simply, it's usually bullshit. Massive inequality brought about by a system which encourages inequality, and it's gone on for too long, so the inequality has become generational, and some could say genetic, with a very tiny elite subjugating and using violence to dominate a giant majority psychologically and physically. And I think what needs to happen is people need to get wise to this and actually care in enough number, and that's the struggle in a nutshell.
Now, On a plus note with holographic, he's trying to call me at the moment, but there's no point in me taking his call because I'll just drop straight out.
Excuse me, Dom, would that be the same ID? I'll do my best.
But on a plus side, I think he will defend you saying you're not some sort of government.
His criticism is a lot more simple. I'm just an asshole idiot. Just like a fucking poser, a fucking twat.
And it is, and I could agree with him because some other people have seen you like that. Like a guy we had on radio the other week, Kirk Rutter. Do you know of him?
No.
He made a documentary called Meet Your Straw Man.
Was it a cartoon?
Yeah, it's 5 minutes long, little informational film.
Yeah, that's a good little video, isn't it?
And you not met him, no?
No.
No. You have.
Do you know if I met him?
You were shouting down your megaphone at him and calling him all the names under the sun, telling him he should wake up, and he just thought, "How ignorant."
Okay.
So that sort of sometimes. This is one thing you got to realise, or I've got to realise myself that. And we've got to be aware of others' differences. And I actually think this in the world that they don't realise that there's people just round the corner from them. Now, I've got friends that contact me and then say, "Oh, I live in this area, no one's around me, blah, blah, blah." And it's like, well, my mate lives just round the corner from you. And I try and hook them up. And I'm trying to start free meetings at the moment so people can have meetings of like-minded people and try and seek the solutions in the world.
Yeah.
So what would you say as solutions? Because the way I see the problems are, it is a prison made for the mind, and it's all made of paper. You're tied to this fictional world by your name, the banking system, the rules, the statutes and acts, the birth certificate. This is all written on paper and you're controlled by it. Mm-hmm. And this is not close to humanity. So what would you see are the solutions?
Well, I take I respect your view as to the nature of the problem, and I do see parallels and agree with you on the prison of the mind aspect, but I do disagree that the focus is on the kind of way you're connected in some sort of legal manner to the system. I think it's much more energetic and consciousness based than that. Even like if we take the game out to its like logical like truth at the end, which is God fucking with himself to surprise himself and challenge the self and experience the full range of emotions and feel trapped, because that's the absolute opposite of God. It's the most surprising thing ever. So I do feel great reverence for the kind of fact that I'm conscious and able to, have the dark thoughts and the kind of sadness and the misery and the kind of happiness and the kind of joy and the kind of the feeling of trying to do the right thing by people. And like, as we agree, when you see inequality, which is, in the Western world, like done through and in the whole world, done through the banking system, you do feel nothing but shame at being part of, well, not part of this, but living in the same space as this that's going on. And you want to do, like, Dom, I love your videos, man. Like, you go out there and do the thing like me, man. You go out there in the front line and confront the cops and speak to the cops. And I respect that. You're one of the few guys in Britain that does that. And so I value your criticism because you can talk.
Well, and that's taken me to this position of where, like, people that I've looked at over years on YouTube, and I'm now getting a great chance through the guys at Dark City to have a completely different type of stage. And this is the radio where I'm allowed to put my thoughts and questions across.
Yeah.
And these are not just my questions as well, asking a lot of things like, what would you say, conspiracy-wise, would you say 9/11 is more closer to the official story than the conspiracy theory stories?
Well, I'll tell you, probably the easier way to do it is by removal of the ones I disagree with, because what actually happened is so big and so violent and involves so many different groups that it's hard to say. But I'll tell you what, anyway, and then can we move on past 9/11, because I've done it a million times. I don't believe there were bombs in the building. I don't think it was a controlled demolition. I don't think the planes were anything other than the planes that were said to be used. And that's pretty much as far as, what I don't think.
So But do you think it was like the official Bin Laden hijackers story?
Well, I think there was definitely Arab hijackers in those planes, and I think they did, take control of the planes. Who ultimately, sent them there, or brainwashed them, or paid for them, or was the kind of like double agent within Al Qaeda who was actually a Mossad guy? Who knows, man? But that's as far as I'm aware.
Okay, so what conspiracies do you say are completely and utterly out there, and you wouldn't even bother looking at them?
Well, look, Dom, I have to say I do have a respect for the conspiracy community and my Damien Rockefeller character, and a lot of the things I talk about. It's a big ode to what I love about conspiracy research and conspiracy thinking, because it is truly how the bad guys would have done it. But you can't prove it either way. So it's very intelligent and it's very meticulous, and that's what I respect about it. So, I don't want to come on here and subscribe to these things, although I have in the past as a defensive thing, because I'm a human being just like everyone else, and I get upset, and if I'm being attacked, I feel hurt and I want to lash out. But people can believe whatever they want.
I'd like to say just this wee word, because it's bubbling away on the inside. I'm dying to get out on the outside, and you're my only ventilation. I am an active member of the Love Police. I'm not a general. I'm not a sergeant or a major. I focus my energy to all my ability into raising the energies of love and compassion, understanding. Not the energies of war, breaching peace. Not the energies of tyranny. And nor only God knows, not ever with a bullet. Killing one of our children demoralises the entire nation. As a soldier who stands here right now raised in love and true compassion, never ever listen to some mad fucker who tells you to get a gun. Have we not learnt? That is not a war. It's a massacre. And we've lost a great soldier. We've lost a great soldier there in Charlie. We must focus in the love. We must focus in the love. Because we never lose anyone. We never lose one of our men behind. We will find him. We will resurrect his soul and drive the demon from his spirit. Because we are the army of light. Aye, light! Do you get me? We're light, airy, fairy. You never even pay us any attention. Oops, I've revealed this again, haven't I? You better cut all that out. Cut all that out. We don't want them to know that we're raising our intentions with the love to bring about world change. Now, give me.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course. If you're happy to do it off there,
okay.
No problem.
Charlie, how many just a rough guesstimate when you were at the G whatever it was, the kind of protest thing with Mr. Tomlinson?
Yeah.
At a rough guesstimate, how many people were there? Do you think?
Around me?
Just generally at the thing,
20,000?
Oh, that's a lot. Right. Now then.
So the question was that you've just put to Charlie.
Yeah.
How many people was at the G20 protest around the point?
Yeah.
And you said 20,000
people there. Were there any other witnesses to Charlie's apparent conversation with Mr. Tomlinson?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know.
I mean, was there people milling about, or?
Yeah, there's people milling about.
So, do you think there would be any other witnesses to this idea that you had or have that he was there protesting?
Yeah, probably. If they heard Pete, then yeah.
So why do you think nobody else has come forward to kind of support your version of events?
Because nobody heard Ian Tomlinson speak to me.
Right. How could that be? With that
in a busy protest, that you think other protesters suddenly have to be paying attention to two anonymous random people?
No. What I'm saying is that if he was there protesting, and like as you say, he said he'd been there all day, and he was up for a fight with the police and stuff.
Yeah.
Surely there would be other people who were witness to him doing that. But there doesn't seem to be anybody else that's come forward with that idea. Most people seem to say that he was just somebody who kind of got caught up in it accidentally on the way home from.
Isn't it
work.
interesting if I was the only person he stopped to chat to? Like, wow, like.
Well, there's the thing, Charlie. I mean, we really only have, if that's the case, if there's no other witnesses to that, really only have your word that he even spoke to you.
That is all you have, and you're happy. I'm happy for you to call me a liar. It's no problem.
Well, I'm not about to call you a liar, but what I'm saying is your kind of personality as such, you don't really come across as somebody that is that trustworthy. Politically, you seem to change your opinions quicker than most people change their niggers, and although you won't talk about it, but your behaviour in your personal life doesn't give much confidence in the idea that you're a trustworthy person.
Thank you. I'm sorry you feel that way, and you're free to
there's
not
nothing
find me.
Sorry about, I'm just stating what some people out there think, at least,
Pete, there's a lot of people who don't find me trustworthy. In fact, some of my friends think I'm a bit of a, CUNT at times. And people out there do trust me, and like thousands of people that like the videos, and there's just this different opinions. Some people don't trust other people like you are, dude. And like that's probably why I took a bit of offense from you on YouTube, is that you seem very keen to let me know that you don't like me, and that's fine. But
no, I don't think it's that per se. I think it's I think what you do generally is, and especially this most recent one to do with Mr. Tomlinson, that's been out since yesterday, whenever. There's always a kind of casual reference to the haters, and it's as if you can't take any criticism. So therefore, there's like this blanket word hater applied to everybody. And what you seem to do is you delete some very valid criticisms by people where they don't abuse you. They just kind of tease out the contradictions in what you're saying, and you leave up the worst ones. There's one particular guy who keeps changing his name, and I can't remember the recent one. He seems to be a bit of a nut. And you'll know who I mean. You leave those ones up, and you seem to delete the ones where people are just asking questions that, okay, the critique doesn't particularly show you in a good light, but it's asking for an answer, and rather than give the answer, you just delete those ones.
Look, I'm under no obligation to spend time dealing with angry people. Like, people ask me questions, and if they're respectful and critique in a respectful, human manner, then I'm much more likely to answer. But I can't answer every comment on YouTube.
No, and nobody expects you to answer every.
But
Holo,
I think the bigger question here.
Holographic.
Yeah.
Holographic. Can you remember any of them questions, then? And would you put them across in a polite way?
No, I can't. No? I would have to go back and do, sit and watch hours and hours and hours of stuff.
Because the thing is, I've deleted and blocked you before.
You have, yeah.
And the reason for that is because, the amount of, posts you was just throwing in there. You've got far too much time on your hands, dude. you know what I mean? You was spamming every other comment out of YouTube just for your version. And I thought, right, that's a bit unfair. So I've gone, right, block. And then I started watching you, and I was like, hang on, this guy is actually very intellectual, and I do agree with quite a lot of the things you say.
Yeah.
So I thought, unblock, and you still, and I call you a troll because I see trolling as somebody that whatever the information is, they'll just fly it out everywhere, bum, 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 bum. And I'm guilty of doing that.
So I'll take issue with this use of the word troll as well, where my take on it is that I just have a different opinion from yourself, from Charlie, and from most of the rest of, all the rest of the conspiracy world, or what's called the alternative media, And it seems to be that as soon as somebody comes, especially conspiracy theory channels on YouTube or wherever, as soon as somebody comes in with a different opinion, a troll's probably one of the nicest words that gets thrown at people, Obviously, there's other words like shill and agent and all these other stupid things, but I mean, it does speak volumes about how far that line of thinking permeates, for want of a better phrase, the so-called truth movement, is that they can't conceive that somebody else would have a different opinion.
Can I butt in, Pete? And thanks, Dom, for that thing. But I think you're failing to see the paradigm with which you're approaching this, because it is your paradigm, Pete, is that you're giving a very large amount of your time and your attention, and
Well, sure, it's not a long
I could even call it, obsession, and Dom, you would probably call it obsession, that you take over, and So why do you take so much time and pleasure dealing with things that you find untrustworthy, your words, or don't like, disagree with?
Because he loves me.
Why I would sit and watch a Charlie Veitch video? It's strange. I came into your stuff a bit late via John Ronson did a documentary which had Alex Jones on, and via listening to Alex Jones and kind of sitting laughing at it, thinking this is just stupid and mad, but great fun. I think you were speaking to him, or you'd put a video up to do with the Israeli embassy or something. So I don't know how long ago that was. And then I watched a couple of videos that you'd done, probably this time you were doing stuff with Danny, and enjoyed, I'm thinking particularly the Canary Wharf thing, which I thought was quite interesting. And then left it for about a year or something, and then went back and watched a few more. And it seems strange that after a while, I thought that there's no critical questioning of anything that you're saying or doing by anybody here. Just like it's like a fan website or a cult website where just everybody comes on, pats you on the back. I'll stick a question up on them. I can't remember, but and straight away, the rest of the commenters, who were obviously all pro Charlie, came in, and it was like, who do you think you are? Kind of asking Charlie questions, I remember somebody saying, because this was about the time Charlie was big on his like resistance and revolution and all this, we're going to march into Downing Street. I remember one commenter said to me, you'll run to Charlie when the shit hits the fan and all this. And I said, well, like, no, I'm not. Why would I run to Charlie? What the hell's Charlie going to do? And probably not long after that, I got banned, I think, because I started asking questions.
I would smoke a spliff with you. That's what I would do.
Well, you would, but except I'd have kind of smoke. But I mean, I'd have a kind of beer, I think. So do you know what I mean? It just seemed like, and this isn't just Charlie's channel. It's kind of most channels of that ilk. And I would still regard Charlie as a conspiracy theorist. Generally, he still hasn't really renounced the idea of this daft idea of a new world order, of an Illuminati, or I haven't seen him recant against previous conspiracy theories he's trying to uphold, such as stuff on vaccines, So, but it's even Danny's channel to an extent is like that, where although Danny's not too bad about, you can go on, you can question him and stuff, the followers seem to be the ones that really get their backs up and so, well, why? How dare you question Danny? As if he's the Pope or somebody, you're like, infallible, and you're not allowed to. And that's the thing I kind of have problems getting my head around. Why aren't you allowed to question? Because supposedly the whole thing about the love police was to ask questions, as far as I could tell, at least in the early days.
Yeah. Well, it's still a place to ask questions, but you can't assume that I'm going to be reading comment sections and answering questions or have the time to do so with everyone. And Pete, this is the bigger issue.
I've never said that.
Are you unable to see how the way you came across or come across can be a bit aggressive and a bit passive aggressive, and it's maybe uncovering an issue in you that you're
No, I think it's the other way around, really. I mean, the reason I still watch Charlie's videos is it's kind of like soap opera to me. I see it as entertainment. I see Danny's channel as entertainment, although, I'm going to disagree with your ideas, obviously, because I have different ideas myself. But I don't really get this idea that you all seem to take YouTube quite seriously and think it's kind of, even last year...
You take YouTube seriously.
I don't. I view it as, I've often said on comment sections on my own videos that most of it's at the level of Harry Hill,
Dude,
it's
you take YouTube so show to ask the questions of the YouTubers you want.
I invited him. I did invite him. What's happened? Has he fallen off his chair? Holo?
I'm still here.
Oh no, I tripped on the wire. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people do take YouTube quite seriously, I suppose, and it's for me, if I'm trying to get what I perceive to be good information out there, because can you deny that this has he gone? Has Pete gone? but that's a shame because like I'd like to talk to him because he's one of the guys that has hit my channel quite a bit, and I don't mind. I really don't, to a certain point.
No, he's still on the line. Pete's still on the line.
I'm still here. Yeah.
Can you mute your microphone, Peter? It's only.
I'm doing this on my phone, so I'm
yeah,
trying
it's
to
okay, man. The other people, for the people listening.
Many apologies.
Paul, you said you had a quick question, didn't you?
Yeah, Pete, you kind of answered it. Charlie answered it. I was curious what Peter's angle was. My name's Paul, Peter. We can be the dicky bird sat on the wall. Because I'm pretty new to all this. I come in from a completely different angle than what most of you consider to be the truth movement. So I was wondering what your angle is. I know you've from what I've heard this evening, that you've done some videos, basically, and the content of those videos has got a lot to do with Dom, Charlie, the freedom movement, and I believe one comment on the video I've seen, a recent one, was that Dom had said doctors were there to make people ill.
Yeah.
And you said it was ridiculous.
It is.
Right, well, obviously you've never experienced this, because I've been through first-hand experience of this, where doctors repeatedly prescribe me medicine. My medical evidence is available, and that medicine, under the Misuse of Drugs Act, was not seen to be benefiting the prescribee, and we can prove hundreds of thousands of cases all over Britain where people are being prescribed prescription drugs, and it is not doing them any good at all. So that's one point I could really take you to task over on my personal life. Really could. I'm not saying the National Health Service and the people are there and knowingly trying to make people ill. I mean, that really is the fringe of it. The truth of it is the National Health Service and many people within it have never been taught the correct way to do it. They're only going off what they know. And I find like many of the questions tonight to Charlie have been quite loaded, and I kind of would like to commend Charlie on taking that position there, because his personal life, that's got nothing to do with anybody else, as yours hasn't, Peter, as mine hasn't. If people want to share that in the open forum, then and people want to think that certain people really are other people, it's entertainment. At least we're delivering entertainment that's not going round and round in a circle, sexualising children on a daily basis. So yeah, I'm a bit confused on where you would be, Peter, if it wasn't for people like Dom and Charlie.
And I don't understand what you mean.
Well, it seems to be a lot of your work, and please correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of your work seems to be based at what other people have done.
Right. That's because these are the channels that I watch for entertainment whilst I'm on YouTube.
Right, so that's what we're commonly known as a troll. Yeah, you're going onto the channel complaining about... You're not actually contributing anything yourself, only to contribute on what other people have already contributed.
No, I've gone on and put certain viewpoints across about particular things.
Yeah, but you've not actually done anything. You've not actually gone out onto the street. I mean, many people have not, Charlie, for doing what he did with the megaphone.
Hang on. Paul. He was in his car the other day, so he does go out the house.
That's
right.
And he's been down the
beach
beach
to find out what Peter's actually done.
Yeah, I've been on sort of our protests against the Iraq War. Did any of you do that?
Yes, I did. Yes.
I don't protest.
When?
So yeah, I'm just wondering what it is that constructively has come out of that, Peter. I'm not having a go at you, of course. We've all done things that lead, don't take us anywhere. I've gone down many paths that have led me into a dead end. That's what it's about. Yeah. We have to try these things. Some of them, I'm trying to find out what it is you've done constructively. You see, that for me, it's not actually the words. We can all churn out a video or two. Everyone can write a book. They say there's a book in everyone. I'm just wondering what it is that you're doing constructive. We like to look for solutions on Dark City. I'm just wondering what...
Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm trying to point people in the direction of real politics. And trying to steer them away as best I can from mad conspiracy theories, which really are a dead end.
Right,
because
hang on. 9/11, right? It's no point looking into it and the rest of it because there is no solution or remedy at the end. There's just a million conspiracy theories. But let's have a look at World Trade Center 7, right? This is a building that fell at near free fall speed with a crink in the top, and it wasn't hit by a plane. 2 planes hit a building, 2 buildings, 3 buildings fell. What's going on there?
It was hit by debris from one of the World Trade Centers. Now, hold on, let me speak. It was hit by debris. There were fires raging throughout it. There were diesel tanks on several floors, which blew up. And the actual structure, if you look at
was made of Lego.
No, it wasn't. But but if you look at the actual structure of World Trade Center 7, it was a peculiar structure in terms of how it was built because it had to be built over the subway station. And I can't recall a particular video that there is about this on YouTube. There is one to do with World Trade Center 7 particularly. And it talks about how it wasn't as strong as, say, other particular buildings in the vicinity that might not have collapsed. For those reasons, it was built differently,
Built differently?
Yeah.
This is, they were made with tempered steel. I used to be in the construction industry. I'm telling you now that buildings do not fall in their pattern like that just because a bit of a building has hit it.
Dom, if I can find the video link, I will send it to you in the next few days, and you sit and watch the particular video that I've watched.
No, I
want. I don't
want somebody else's opinion. I want your opinion.
Well, these are structural engineers that are telling you this. This isn't me. These are structural engineers and demolition specialists who should know more than all of us put together.
And this building, it did literally turn to dust, right? They could find hardly anything in it, but they could find passports. But no titanium black boxes are found. How'd you work that one out?
I don't, and there's always going to be lots of unanswered questions when some big historic event happens,
How about inside job is an answered question?
There's no proof for it.
No proof, right? I'll tell you what, right? When you look at a building that falls on free fall speed that wasn't hit by a plane in its own pattern, it looks like a controlled demolition. And was it Silverstein that said...
It does look like it.
Guys, can I pop in for a sec?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I have to agree with Pete here. Dom, you talk about World Trade Center 7. Like, it got absolutely twatted by falling debris. It carved out like a whole third of it on one side, and it fucking burned like fucking crazy, and it started collapsing down one side. It wasn't free fall speed. The one side started crippling in, and then it kind of tore itself down, and it fell down in that way because that's just...
did it fall down? They didn't pull it?
No, they didn't pull it, man. It got destroyed. It was like 10,000 earthquakes on that thing's soul that day.
The building had been on fire all day. Once the second tower went down, that's when the fire started. And it fell at 5:30. That's a good few hours,
Yeah. I think buildings can burn for like days, really.
Some of them can, but this one, didn't.
We have a truther question. It's a multiple choice answer. A multiple choice answers. And the question is 9/11, 7/7, and the answers are inside job, outside job, government lies, or rant.
Does anybody want me to answer that? Or?
Go on then.
Well, I would say, I've kind of been around the houses on the 9/11 thing and thought all different theories myself over the years and come to the conclusion that it happened as they said it happened, as best as they could.
Why are the passengers still alive?
Pardon me?
Why are there passengers still...
I think it's the hijackers. There was a hijacker that said, no, that's not me.
That could easily be a case of where someone's passport has been stolen and been used for somebody else.
Why don't the American authorities accept that he can't have been on that plane?
I really don't know. You'd have to ask them,
Yeah, well, many people are.
And the thing is, people...
They're obviously not telling the truth. That's all I'm saying.
people watch these DVDs and they watch hours and hours and hours of them. And I watched the thing 7/7 by Muad'Dib or whoever it was, and parts of that seemed plausible. And then I watched a few rebuttals of that. And you find out that the guy who made the documentary is some weird guy living in Ireland who thinks he's the Messiah, a la David Shayler. So you wonder who these people are making these documentaries and what their motivations are. And, I've watched a little video the other day with Jason Burmis on. There's a guy just standing in the street questioning him and pointing out where Burmis is kind of elusive, shall we say, when he's being asked a question and, just flat out lying at times. People think of people as truthers as though they haven't got an agenda. We're just here to seek the truth. But the truth is, lots of truthers have their own agendas about, like, they want to hate the government. They want to say that the government is the problem because
the YouTube Taliban,
the YouTube Taliban, the state and the government is behind all the evil in the world. And, if only we could get rid of government and the state and this, that, and the other, life would be peachy and utopia and all this. And it's fantasy land stuff, It's people should read history books. They shouldn't watch YouTube videos, and they should get involved in politics instead of conspiracies because, like, it's a distraction. And I'm strangely going to agree with Charlie again. It's one of the first videos he did after the 9/11 New York video where he got a lot of stick. I can't remember which video it was, but he said something like, "Yeah, 3,000 people died, but think of the bigger problems of, like, the invasion of Iraq, the invasion of Afghanistan. Those political issues are much more important than the events of one day, because then you're getting into politics and the reasons why the Bush administration invaded Iraq. People saying, oh, well, 9/11 gave them the excuse to do that. Well, if it was an inside job and the Bush administration was behind it all the way, why wouldn't they put 19 Iraqi hijackers on the plane instead of Saudi ones, Because there's your... Otherwise, they had to invent reasons like weapons of mass destruction and stuff,
Are you part of the Love Police?
I'm certainly not, but like I will agree. I will stand up for Charlie and agree with him where I think he's talking sense. I just think he never really followed through with his ideas that conspiracy theories were bunk, and he still clings on to some of them. I think as a way of retaining some of his audience and his donations. I would like him to hear him rebut some of the conspiracy theories he's peddled, like the idea that social workers get paid £40,000 a year to snatch kids out of homes,
You do know that the social services are a corporation and they do trade for profit and they have quotas and targets to meet.
Social workers are not paid £40,000 per child to take children out of the home.
I didn't say that, but I'm saying social services is a registered trading corporation where they've got quotas and targets to meet.
Charlie had a video up with a woman that he interviewed that was saying this, and he's, as far as I'm aware, he's never rebutted that. He's never recanted that idea. I'd like to hear him recant it now because actually I'm a qualified social worker and I don't work in childcare social work myself, but I have friends that do. It's nonsense.
Okay, but like before Charlie answers that, would you agree with me that the social services are a registered corporation trading for profit?
I have no knowledge of that whatsoever, and I'm not sure what difference it would make even if it was the case.
Okay, and they've got targets to meet and quotas.
Do they? Says who?
Yeah, the government.
Where?
They're registered on Dun & Bradstreet, social services.
Yeah, where's the evidence for the idea that there are quotas and targets to meet?
Of course they have targets to meet, like so many, where's
the evidence though, Don?
It's like the police. It's like the police have quotas and targets. It's like the NHS have quotas and targets. That's why they want people to, and they literally force vaccines on people. You've got to have a vaccine. You won't be able to do it without it. And I've seen it like in when people are having children. It's like, well, they try and push forward an epidural and pethidine so they can tick off their boxes, and they hit a certain quota, and I've been told this by the NHS. They hit a certain quota and then they get more for next year for their hospital.
If that was the case, and I'm not saying it is the case because I don't know that it is the case, wouldn't that point out that the whole marketisation, because that's where all that kind of stupidity would come from, of the
Yeah.
NHS, which is a public sector operation. They're trying to marketise it and privatise it as we speak. That is the problem.
Okay, so
It's
you'd
not
agree with me.
conspiracy theory.
Okay, no. It's not conspiracy theory because we can prove this and talk about it. So if can you actually admit that the capitalist market sort of world, the corporate world, is not really good for the situation that we're in? Do you think it's good for what's going on the planet at the moment?
I'm what you would call an old-fashioned lefty socialist type, right? So whilst I would view capitalism as deleterious over the long term, I'm not going to knock capitalism for the benefits it has brought, because that would be stupid, But I view capitalism as something that will be hopefully overcome, is that the right word? Or we'll go past it at some point in history and we'll develop something else. We're just not in a revolutionary situation at the moment, as much as Charlie believes we might be. And he's been banging on about it for 2 years, but I think he's kidding himself. There is no kind of political opposition, unfortunately, to neoliberal economics, which is what we've been sort of dealing with for the past 30 years. So that's what needs to change. And that's why I'm trying to say people should get involved in politics as opposed to conspiracy theories or people like Charlie thinking that he's an activist when all he does is stand on street corners or outside shopping malls and shout abuse at passers-by. It's basically all he's degenerated into,
That's rubbish. You have no idea what Charlie Veitch has been doing over the last few months. And the people around him. You've no idea at all.
I can only go by...
No, I do know. I do know what he's been doing, and that is completely untrue.
I can only go by the videos he puts up online.
Well, that's like looking at Coronation Street and then picking up one of the actors and thinking
if he's doing sterling activist work, let him put it online,
Well, why should he put it online?
Because, wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you then publicise that?
Look, it doesn't matter what people put up there. There's going to be people come along who's going to have a problem with it. I know for a fact. I know that. You can laugh as much as you want, but I'm telling you.
I am.
Yeah, well, you can. Have a look at Ashton Allotment Action here in Ashton-under-Lyne. Have a look at that. Go and have a look.
I'll have a look.
We don't polish stuff all over the place. And Charlie's been involved with that. He's lent his support to that, and that's brought a lot of people to that cause. And without himself and other individuals, we wouldn't be having the success we are currently having. So I have to rebut you on that. But obviously that's information you don't know. And why do we? Don't need to put it all over on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that's not on YouTube. But hey, it's great to have you here, Peter. It's a brilliant forum, I feel.
I just wonder why you wouldn't put that up, and why Charlie would rather put up videos where he's having pointless arguments with shopping mall security guards.
Look, Pete, I think it's very simply that maybe on a kind of spiritual or energetic level you misunderstand where I'm coming from. But dude, you seem like really, really keen to let me know though, so that's fine. But
should I not be?
Yeah, man. Like if you don't find me trustworthy or like what I do or agree with what I say, move on and make some friends.
No, Charlie, I find you entertaining, and apart from the slur you've just thrown at me there that I've got no friends, which is a really childish thing to say.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I mean, as opposed to spending some time like towards untrustworthy people, go towards the friends.
I spend most of my time with friends and family and whatever, but I do use. I view YouTube as kind of a substitute television, really. I think that's all it is. I don't think it's a great sort of tool for revolution or resistance or whatever, or even anything like that, I think that's the thing. Another point I'm trying to put across is I view YouTube as a whole and particular characters within it. It's mostly on the level of Harry Hill. It's that.
Can I put a question across? Basically, right, do you think that revolutions or movements could be orchestrated or infiltrated?
It could certainly be infiltrated, but say like on the Occupy thing, I viewed, and I did videos at the time on Occupy and said the reason it didn't go anywhere was because all you had was a lot of disparate people turn up to this thing with probably very little in common other than it was like a general adolescent whinge at the government, They had no goals particularly. And it
Well,
took,
I
it took
disagree.
them
I think
2
they did have
months.
goals.
Well,
I think they did have
they did.
goals, and I think they got exactly what they planned to do. They changed the
Yeah, but
squatting
that's
law.
your conspiracy theory on it.
It's proof. It's
Peter,
there in the
just
High Court.
again, can I remind you, Peter, not to talk over other people? It's
Sorry.
just I want people to hear what you're saying. I
Okay.
know you're passionate. I can feel your passion, bro. But good technique is mute your microphone, let them speak, unmute. You know, we'll give you plenty of time, man. This is the Dark City. Everyone's welcome here. Please
Right.
carry on, Dom. Thanks, mate.
And also yourself, Charlie. Like, would you think that there'd be infiltration and orchestration of these so-called movements?
Of course I do, and I'm sure throughout history we could find examples of there being infiltrators into like the IRA or the French Resistance and kind of double agents and stuff. So yeah, of course it happens all the time.
So do you think it would have happened at Occupy?
I don't think Occupy was considered that much of a threat at the time. I think the intelligence on Occupy was.
Well, hang on, Charlie. So, like, a clown posse that has 10 people that gets infiltrated by an undercover cop to watch activists could be seen as a threat, but a worldwide movement with thousands of people wouldn't be seen as a threat to be infiltrated.
Well, it might be infiltrated, but my personal opinion is that it didn't metastasize into anything dangerous.
Well, it's still going to be infiltrated, isn't it? And have controlled opposition come in, and people have roles to play.
I don't know, Dom.
Yeah, but have a wild guess, Charlie. You've been doing this enough years to know that this does happen.
Well, as I said, I told you my opinion. I don't think Occupy was infiltrated by government agents.
What? Not one. Hang on a minute. Let's run through this. A list of people, yeah? Saskia Kent, Common Purpose graduate, right? And Common Purpose is supposed to be a little bit more than inconspicuous. The Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, who do social engineering and have the world's top leading psychotherapists, are running workshops called Social Dreaming. You've got security there that actually run a company that instructs High Court bailiffs. This is not your average protester that is controlling this movement.
Okay, good point. You should put together a good video about this, Dom.
I think it's faded away and it's like move on, isn't it? It's I think many people across the world actually realised that Occupy was an inside job and it didn't get the support that it needed to go any further. People have realised that, as the way I see it. That's why it's not going any further. They reached the goals that they needed, but if they carried on, they could take more rights away from people. They even Critical Mass, the first day of the Olympics when it opened and the rest of it, Critical Mass were doing a bike ride. They got hijacked by the Occupy movement and drove straight into a kettle. Nice for the media, nice for a court case.
I don't know, man. Like, yeah, you can connect dots, but is there like direct evidence of government agentshood?
You've got people. Well, this is it. You've got to tie the dots together, haven't you? And you're never going to be able to. Well, you've got Climate Camp. All the donation money was going to Climate Camp. That's got heavy involvement with people like Mark Kennedy. It's also promoting climate change. There's a big green agenda, and that fits into Agenda 21. It's like, what are these guys truly pushing in? And then what they're doing is enforcing more rules on people than what the actual system could enforce. And it's like this. It's like what the people were trying to do was protest and bring in the New World Order as what they were supposed to be against. It was ironic.
Well, you've just given me a thought, Dom, that potentially there is a kind of secret war, like at the kind of deepest level of government, like like leftist thinking, and the kind of free market capitalists, and there's like some sort of secret society in government which infiltrates these movements and tries to bring about this like big agenda that is not what the kind of bankers and capitalists want. So, like there's lots of things it could be,
So, like, the thing is, you actually perceive that there are problems in the world. So what would you say to people are the solutions?
The solutions to the overall problem.
Yeah.
I think to become self-aware is the most important thing, which we're all on the kind of big path towards becoming. And secondly, have people in your life that you can really, really trust, like really, really close to you that you can trust. And thirdly, just like defy the things that you find immoral. And that is the one where the vast majority of people fail at. And there's a vast level of like different viewpoints as to like how bad the problem is. And that's the problem with society, is that most people don't think there's a big problem because they don't think about these things on a daily basis. So at the moment, like, it's about the people who are like aware that there is a problem to get together on a spiritual level and as well as a physical level, if they can, like be with your own kind of people and try your very best to steer the juggernaut of society towards something less rapey and killy.
What about yourself, Holo? Do you actually think that the government is there for our benefit?
I think the kind of society we inhabit, which is within the confines of a particular economic system, and an economic system that has kind of gone on to, for the past 30 years or so, this neoliberal economics kind of approach to the world where you try and marketize everything. My personal opinion is that that's not a good thing, but you have to view parliamentary democracy within that context. And I think parliamentary democracy, as is or as was kind of more suited to the last century, I think. There's a book by a guy called Paul Mason, who's the economics guy on Newsnight, called Why It's Kicking Off Everywhere. And he refers to something because of the rise of the internet and so forth, that he calls the new horizontalism, and this kind of attack on hierarchies and so forth and so on. And I can see how for younger people, because I'm 50, so I'm a bit of an old git here. I can see how for younger people, politics in that sense, they see as being too slow to react to changes in society. So you have very rapid economic changes going on all the time now because of the flow of capital around the world. And as much as I would like to see a revolution, I couldn't really see it happening because there is no real political opposition in the country today. You've got three main parties. They all believe pretty much the same stuff. You've got the Green Party, which in some sense is quite socially progressive on some issues, but overall it's backward in terms of things like technology and so forth. So there's really not a lot of choice out there. But what I would say to people is, if you can't find somebody to vote for, go and stand, even if it's only for your local council. Get stuck in and do something that way.
Well, I actually don't think that system works at all. That's why I do what I do. But many people out there thinks that I won't actually make any change, but I actually do think I do make positive change in the world. And the thing is, you brought up about the Green Party, and that they support all this climate change hoax, and it's just a scam, really. They just want to tax the air that people breathe next. Oh, in fact, they've already done that. That's carbon tax. But if there's another one that you might not have heard of, is Agenda 21. Do you know about
Agenda? Yeah, I've known about that for a long time.
Okay, so what do you think the policies under Agenda 21 are a good thing for humanity?
No, I mean, I would be sort of, as I say, as an old-fashioned sort of lefty socialist type, of which there are not many left. I'm all for kind of what I would call progressive ideals, both socially and economically. I'm for a world where, see, as much as somebody like Charlie would argue, and Danny to an extent, people like this, the kind of the shopping mall kind of world, where there's people go in, they shop, and we're consumers and this, that, and the other. To me, that's what's wrong. I don't see anything wrong with that. In my ideal world, somebody who's presently starving in Africa within 10 or 20 years, if they could be wandering around a shopping mall, texting each other on their iPhones to go and have a latte together, to me, that's progress, because they're not starving anymore. See where I'm coming from?
Yeah, well, I think people should stop using that system that covertly enslaves them, but I can't see many people being able to survive in the system without the use of the name. But we've only got about 10, 15 minutes left, and I'd like to sum it up from the night. And the thing is, I totally agree with Holo. You seem really confused about where you're coming from, Charlie, with what you say. You say, like, the police wasn't violent, then you say the police were overly aggressive, and then, like, it looks like, to me, it was a police cover-up. The police, obviously, they knew that they've killed him, and they needed to cover it up, and this was a very high-profile situation. They could have used an actor. They've obviously had a pathologist who's done a post-mortem, who's covered it up and lied about it. And then, like, they've got 3 other pathologists to say, no, it's internal bleeding. So the first one blatantly lied. So with everything else that's before us, with what you say about him walking away, so you saw it all, but then you say, like, that he was running away from the police and he fell on the floor, and that was the only reason why he died. Your actual words are, the only reason this man collapsed is because the police were pushing forward 20 metres at a time, and he ran off and fell over and bashed his head. You don't mention about him being hit or anything like that, and you can say, well, he could have got hit before. And it just seems like with your website that we mentioned earlier, that you've got advertising on there that you're an actor, and you've got previous paid jobs, and these jobs you've also admitted could be from the BBC.
Dom, you've loaded so many things and skewered so many arguments and kind of constructed it in such a way that, like, how can I even possibly begin to answer that? Dude, I think it's just a matter of whether you think it could all be connected, that I'm some sort of YouTubing, like, agent doing some sort of mission, and that was part of my mission. Because none of it's true, and I wasn't paid by anyone to say anything about Ian Tomlinson. Like, I never said, like, back then, or like on the Corbett Report or now, that I actually saw the police knock him over on that day. I did clearly say on the Corbett Report that I didn't see the initial hit, and that I did actually just see him run off and then die and fall over and die. So there's no, again, as I say, there's no hidden anything. Like, I'm not trying to, like, cover anything up.
But the thing is, you said, like, on that everything that you say is true, and there was somebody in the audience that said, like, for the medic, and then, like, when we asked you, you didn't say it was you, and then, like, later on, when you was in free flow speech, you admitted that it was you. So you did call out for the medics, and or you admitted, well, one of them's got to be a lie. And also on top of that, you was there with your megaphone saying who let the dogs out, and on the BBC you didn't tell them you was a protester, but you was a banker. So a banker, protester, self-confessed actor who's got previous experience, has been paid.
No, Dom, you're connecting too many dots that simply aren't true. Like, I can see your mind working in this conspiratorial way, but...
Okay, so tell me what points aren't true.
They're all skewered and weird and a kind of conspiratorial kind of, like, put together. Well, dude, I'll tell you what's not true. I was never paid. No one told me to say anything.
You said earlier on that you might have been paid by a couple of these BBC. This is what you said earlier on. So you have been paid.
Say that. Dom,
you have. You've got to no, honestly, you've got to listen back to this interview. You said, it might be the odd £25 here or there, but
that was Press TV. Press TV used to pay me to come on their show because they're a kind of ragtag kind of satellite TV show. So all the guests get paid. Every single guest on Press TV gets paid for their effort to turn up and, like, talk. Never did anything for the BBC paid.
You just said that you hadn't been paid. Now you're saying you have. This is really one of us is confused here.
Dom, you're thinking very conspiratorially. Like, no one's confused. Like, I'm not a paid actor. I got paid for talking my opinion on the news.
Well, on your not your website. There's a website called starnow.co.uk. It says you are an actor and you've got previous experience.
Dom, we went through this about an hour and a half ago on this very show.
You just said no. You're going backwards and forwards. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it because this has gone backwards and forwards from yes and no's.
Dom, are you playing like some sort of like super radio show host? Because like, dude, it sounds like you're just going round and round and getting a bit nutty.
Well, no, I'm not getting any. Well, one of them's the truth, obviously, but I don't know which one. I don't know whether it's the yeses or the nos. When you're saying like yes on one thing and then you're saying later on no, it's very confusing for me to like try and find out what is the truth if you're giving me two totally separate answers that contradict themselves.
I'm not giving you any separate answers, Dom. You're inventing contradictions and conspiracies in your head, and you're tripping yourself up, inventing things which aren't there. Like, I was there the way I said I was, and I spoke to Ian Tomlinson the way I said I did, and everything else is invented in your head, man.
So you're not a paid actor, as it says on starnow.co.uk?
No, Dom, I'm not a paid actor, as it says on starnow.co.uk.
But that is your profile, Charles Veitch, that you set up.
Well, I hope all the things I set up, it was me that I set up. So yeah, like, I don't know where you're going with this.
Well, it states on there that you've got previous acting experience, paid jobs, paid speaking roles.
Did I not explain that to you earlier? That's to kind of show off to try and get paid acting roles. Remember we went over this about an hour and a half ago?
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, because then you say you're not paid and then you say you are paid. So it's like, I don't know.
Are you using that as evidence of like a super high paid shill that did this like spontaneous lunchtime interview to like cover something up about Ian Tomlinson? Is that your angle?
So what, the BBC was a shill to cover up Ian Tomlinson, like that, because they did use your footage for that, and like basically it weren't for a few days until like they brought out the other footage of him being bashed and thrown to the floor that they actually wanted to do a new inquiry.
Dom, again, like, I'm standing by my position that what I'm telling you is true, and I think this, you're getting very conspiracy theory here, and that's fine.
Well, that's the circles we're involved in anyway, isn't it, Charlie? And you know what I mean? At the end of the day, any of us can only be what we are ourselves and just carry on doing what we do. And hopefully we're all here for good intent, and the ones that are not, they're the ones that we should resonate more towards. But I think this is the end of the night, as we've been given a 1-minute warning. So I'd like to say thank you for everyone that's listened. And this is Dom signing out. And Charlie, much love to you. Thanks for coming on. Holo, thank you very much. Paul and everybody else that's in the room.
Thank you.
Well, good night, Dom. Just try not to let your mind go too crazy about things. And I enjoyed being on the show, and it was fun.
Thanks again, bro. All right, take care.
You're listening to Dark City Radio Live, and this is your host Dawn from the Dark City crew. Tune in at www.darkcityradio.com. You can find us by searching Dark City Radio on Facebook or Twitter.
I have to channel the spirit. All right, let's see here.
This is not our radio. This is your radio. Dark City Radio.
Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So if you want the truth, go to
Dark City Radio.